The year is 2130 and humans have established a colony on Mars for the past 30 years. They have built new infrastructure, adapted to the cold, harsh environment of the planet, and reassessed almost every aspect of their lifestyle. But what happens when we die on Mars? What would become of our bodies, our stories, and our memories?
DNA code and computer code are kind of similar. Really, they're just two different methods of storing data. DNA, all the instructions for what makes you, is made up of just 4 DNA molecules, denoted as A's, T's, G's, and C's, in a particular sequence. While computer code, a sequence made up of just 1s and 0s, creates pretty much everything that's digital. In 2017, Seth Shipman and a team of researchers at Harvard were able to convert this gift from computer code into DNA code. They then uploaded this data into a bacterial population of E. coli. They were then able to download it by sequencing or reading the DNA in the bacteria. And while this was only 90% accurate, it demonstrated to the world how the gap between biological data and digital data isn't so great. Shipman and his team used current genome editing technologies to insert the data into the bacteria. However, using a synthetically made chromosome could store a lot more data instead of inserting little chunks of data into the existing chromosomes. Already, projects like Yeast 2.0 are showing that this is possible. They are building the complete yeast genome made up of 16 synthetic chromosomes at universities around the world. So, what's the function of DNA? Well, it contains all the instructions a cell needs to be a cell. When a cell senses it needs to perform a function or make a change, it finds what to do in its huge instruction manual, its DNA. When it finds the right instructions, it converts them into a command so it can tell itself to do this now. This active command, in biological terms, is called RNA. RNA is the output of DNA and is used to make all the molecules and proteins in a cell. Just as we can sequence and read DNA, we can also read RNA because it is just the output of a particular part of DNA. The technology for genome sequencing, the decoding of DNA and RNA into a language that we can read, has advanced rapidly. Oxford Nanopore, a biotech company, has developed portable, pocket-sized devices that can essentially read DNA and RNA code in real time. The device is based on a core set of nanopores, which are minuscule holes that ratchet DNA and RNA and then use currents to read their sequence.
Now back to the future. The Mars 100 landed in 2100. In 2110, Liv was born. She grew up in the Mars colony. It's all she's ever known. At 17 years of age, her mother passed away from cancer caused by overexposure to UV radiation. 3 years later, Mars's first society has endured for 30 years. The original population of 100 has increased by 20 people. The colony have everything they need for survival and extremely sophisticated technology. However, there has also been death and illness, and the general morale of the society has declined. These people are the most intensely monitored humans to have ever existed. Their lives are almost robotic. All parts of their lives have to be routine. Every resource is sacred. Because of this, the first Martian society will need to be a closed system. We imagine that Martians will treat human bodies as a crucial resource. Bodies contain organic material and nutrients needed for growing crops, which are absent on Mars. Martian corpses would be used in a corpse compost system, or CCS, that recycles the corpse into fertilizer to supplement soil with the nutrients needed for growing crops. On Earth, bodies can decompose in any location given adequate moisture and the right temperature. They don't need to be buried in soil as they already contain organisms internally that are capable of full decomposition. This means they can break down almost anywhere. However, external microbes found in soil assist the breakdown of cells, reducing the time it takes for a body to degrade. But on Mars, an arid planet where temperatures are usually freezing, our bodies would mummify instead of decomposing. The Martian colony uses the CCS to process corpses in a non-wasteful manner. To do this, corpses are placed in a sealed, pressure-controlled environment with adequate conditions in temperature and humidity for microbes to survive and break down the tissue in a couple of weeks. This system would be an essential protocol for ensuring the survival of Liv's society. We imagine that initially it would be accepted as a necessary means of maximising resources. But after 3 decades of increased productivity and living standards, Martians like Liv would begin to reject these purely utilitarian and unempathetic systems.
To understand this, we want you to imagine that you're living on Mars in 2130. You live in a very well-designed underground space. The atmosphere outside is toxic, but you can explore Mars in a spacesuit. Living, however, is more than just surviving. You have that feeling of isolation. You're detached, born on a planet that doesn't seem to want you there. Because of this, you live in a system that has to eat itself. Think about the corpse compost system. It's perfect for maintaining the physical health of your fellow Martians. But how do you really feel about this? Is that all your deceased loved ones pass on to you? Nutrition? The only element of your life that doesn't feel purpose-built is you and your relationships with other people. That is real. You've lived this together, and it's your experiences that allow you to support one another. But the design of your environment doesn't reflect this, as there's hardly any room for a sense of collective identity when a deceased loved one is seen as only important for growing food once they die. There are no ceremonies around death, no urns, no tombstones, things that we pass on. The only things that are built are there to keep your heart beating. This is life on Mars.
Here is our design, the memorial plant. After the death of Liv's mother, the group came together to upload the memory of her into a memorial plant as a way of coping with their loss. They create a living memorial so that the story of Liv's mum can live on. Liv got together with some of her community, her mother's nearest and dearest, to corroborate her memory. To do so, they selected Liv's mum's favourite plant, the Pilia peperomia, to act as the living vessel for her mother's memory. Liv's mum was the first musician on Mars. They collect things such as her photographs, scan her music sheets, the audio clips of her singing, and the videos of her playing the guitar. They create digital copies of their stories and experiences with Liv's mum by making voice memos. Liv finds her mum's journal and her old-school Bluetooth headphones. She even finds that annoying song her mum would always sing. Her community does this too, each with their own story, their own history with this Martian. After collecting everything that they want to memorialize, including that annoying song, they document everything so that it can exist as ones and zeros. Then, Liv uses an algorithm that converts the memories from computer code into DNA code. Once she has the memories existing as A's, T's, G's, and C's, a DNA synthesizer, a machine that exists today, synthesizes the new DNA strand. This DNA is then stored in a large bundle which makes up a synthetic chromosome. Once Liv has the synthetic chromosome, she can upload this collection of memories into the Pilia plant by a process called transformation, in which external DNA is introduced into the cells of an organism. Right now, there are many different ways that we can do this, but simply put, the synthetic chromosome is delivered into a plant cell that can then regenerate into an entirely new plant. Since this entire plant grows from a single original cell, the synthetic chromosome is in every cell of the memorial plant. The synthetic chromosome is designed so that the plant's natural genome will not be disrupted. Synthetic chromosomes have already been validated in organisms such as yeast. This means the memory genes could be read and expressed without disrupting normal plant functioning. To care for her mother's memory, Liv can nurture the plant by watering it, fertilizing the soil, or turning on a warm light. For Liv, the most common way she cares for her mother's memorial plant is by watering the plant. In this process, this ritual of caring for the plant, Liv is caring for her mother's memory, letting her story survive on Mars.
Caring for the plant is also how Liv retrieves her mother's memories for her to experience. Liv designed the synthetic chromosome in the plant so that it can sense certain changes in the external environment that are related to caring for the plant. Like we mentioned earlier, changes in what a cell senses trigger the synthetic chromosome to express RNA. For example, when Liv waters the plant, lots of copies of this RNA are made. In this case, these RNA molecules code for that annoying song Liv's mum would always sing. Put more simply, caring for the plant prompts the output of memories. The plant grows in a pot with a nanopore drive. The nanopore drive is capable of reading the RNA data from the memorial plant in real time. It can read the living memory of Liv's mum and pair with personal electronic devices. This is what allows Liv to experience these memories through caring for her mother's memorial plant. Liv pairs her mum's retro Bluetooth headphones with the nanopore drive, and she sits with the plant while remembering the times her mum would annoyingly sing this song. This is what Liv usually does when she's feeling alone or isolated. She connects with her heritage on Mars. She doesn't long for Earth. She connects to her ancestry because of what it has to teach her. If this memorial plant dies, it symbolizes the natural processes of life and death. But Liv can choose to replant one of these seeds to maintain her emotional connection to her mother's memory.
The replanting of memorial plants could become a kind of cultural practice on Mars, a tradition of sorts that links the community to their collective identity, their stories, and their Martian heritage. The mortality ritual invites Martians to remember their loved ones by physically engaging with their memory. Over time, these plants grow into a forest of family trees that offer stable, tangible connections to the Martian heritage, aging with them throughout their life. Martians can select different species of plants to grow and choose to store different forms of data. From user research, we found people had varying reactions to the concept of encoding computational data into DNA. We initially considered storing the entire genome of Liv's mother in the plant, but from interviews with diverse audiences, we found that most people were uncomfortable with the idea of anthropomorphizing the plant due to cloning and data privacy. We only gave the example for Liv, whose favorite thing to do was to just sit with her mother's memorial plant and listen to some of her songs. But in the cemetery/nursery, she now shares a space with other grieving Martians. Sitting across from her is Raf with his father's memorial plant, who has downloaded his famous recipe for Martian tacos and photographs of family vacations to Mars's moons. In the long term, these memorial plants will provide Martians with a sense of heritage in a foreign place. They grow into a living library of human experiences. Each replanting ceremony begins with the end in mind, a reminder that a meaningful life on Mars is marked by its connections to other life, both human and non-human. These cultural strands tether living Martians to their loved ones, helping to weave a shared narrative that strengthens the social fabric on Mars. If Mars is to truly become a second home, we must consider using synthetic biology for more than just practical concerns associated with interplanetary existence. After all, for many of us, the concept of home is marked by our emotional connection to place and the people within them. It is where we share and pass down stories, where we remember the living and the dead and find consolation in our shared human experience, especially on a planet as distant as Mars. Stories provide us with a sense of belonging, a way of understanding ourselves, and so it is our firm belief that by determining what stories are important and worthy of preserving, that we will find the key to not only sustaining human life on Mars beyond 2130, but ensuring that it retains its humanity. Thank you.